Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the official first lesson of this How to Draw series. So, as stated before in the previous video, I'm just going to kind of show you guys a few of the tools that I use and my go-tos as far as drawing utensils, and then we will officially get into our first lesson. So I mentioned before that I do have some drawing pencils, some artistic pencils. I do have a variety of not only brands, but as well as different lead hardness and softness. So this is a Faber-Castell Goldfaber. This is a 2H. And then this one is the General Kimberly's Kimberly. This is an H. Maybe one day I will demonstrate the differences between the leads, because I do have other hardness and softness when it comes to the lead options or graphite options for these pencils. This is one of the mechanical pencils I do have and I use. This is the one that I mentioned is $20. So, but it is a full metal body. It is a, this is a Pentel Graph Gear 1000. This is a 0.5. With mechanical pencils, I do prefer to draw in the 0.5 lead. With this particular pencil, it does allow, if you click it, the actual pencil part will come out, and then you can click it to extend the graphite. And then with this particular pencil, I do like, this is like a travel pencil, a good travel pencil for me, because when I finish drawing and I need to put this in my pocket or in my bag, I can just click this and that part goes in, so that way I do not have to worry about this part bending or either sticking through my bag or stabbing me in my pants. So this is why I like this particular pencil, and I do like the weight of it. It is a little bit heavier, so it has its uses. Outside of that, I do have the two mechanical pencils that I showed on the supply list. This has a twist eraser here, and then this one just has a cap eraser. These erasers are very small. That's why I recommend, if you get something like this, to definitely get a click eraser, so that way you have a larger eraser. These are both 0.5. And the reason they have tape on it with HB on it is just because I do have two of each one, and there's different lead in the other ones. I think one has H lead and the other one has F lead in it. So it's just easier for me to tell which one of the different two has HB lead in it. And then the final thing I would like to show you guys is the lead holder. Now, I know I mentioned this in the supply list, but I did not have a picture of it. But this clicks out and you have a thicker piece of lead. And these usually last a good chunk of time. But with lead holders, you actually need a sharpener that I can't seem to find. Let me see if I can find it. Give me a moment. Let me get the sharpener for this. So the sharpener for these types of pencils, you have two different options. Most of them, if not all of them, will allow you to sharpen the pencil with the actual top cover, because the top cover, if you take it off, this is where you would put the lead in. And then this, you would get something like this, where it has, you can decide if you want it sharper or less sharp, or blunt slash more sharp. And then you would measure it out here, so I can show you guys. You take this, you would click the lid, let it drop, so you have your measurement. The more it sticks out, that means the more the sharper it's going to be. So this would be more blunt. Well, not blunt, but you're gonna have a longer, sharper point, I guess. And then you would put it in here, and you would circle to sharpen it. I just gonna have to clean it. And then inside, if you're interested, it's pretty much the same grinding piece that you would get with a, I don't know if you can see it because the lighting here, but you would still get the sharpening type, the metal piece that you would get from a sharpener anywhere else, like an electric sharpener. This is just a manual sharpener. So you would use something like this to sharpen this type of lead holder. They do have other lead holders that are a little bit thicker. This is a kind of like just like a regular, maybe a little bit smaller than the graphite that goes into a pencil. It might be the same, I'm not quite sure, but they do get, you can get ones that are thicker, like thicker lead, but you would also have to get a lead holder that would accommodate that lead. Not all lead holders are going to hold the same lead, so that's just something to be mindful of. So I'm going to use my mechanical pencil. I just prefer to use mechanical pencils, as I've discussed in the previous video. I'm going to use the HB lead, and we're just going to go over actual exercises that you can do to start getting used to drawing. And then I will provide possible work that you can do after, if you want to follow along, so that way you can practice and get used to your supplies and materials, etc. And I don't know how I got this scratch on me. I think my dog did it. We were roughhousing. But let's go ahead and get to. So the first thing we are going to work with is just drawing lines. The one thing I forgot to mention in the supply list in my previous video is you're going to need some type of ruler throughout this course. Just you could do a 12-inch ruler or like a small 6-inch ruler. We will be using them to draw straight edges from time to time, but for now I'm gonna do everything freehand, just in case if you don't have a ruler at the moment. So I'm going to angle my page because this is the angle that I feel comfortable with. If you need to turn your paper instead of drawing it head on, like straight, do that. You want to find an angle that's comfortable for you, that feels natural to you. What we're going to do is we're just going to draw straight lines, or try to draw straight lines. Now, I usually go from left to right with my lines. That might not be comfortable for you. You might have more comfort going right to left. I clearly do not, and that is okay. So you just want to try to focus on making straight lines. They don't have to be a certain distance apart. If you want, you can try making shorter lines at first. That way you get more comfortable and get warmed up. And just think of these as a warm-up. Like, this is something you can do before you actually start getting into your drawings, to kind of help warm up those muscles. Kind of think of it like working out. You're going to do some type of warm up before you start working out, so that way you're not working out cold muscles, whether that be, you know, jumping jacks, jump rope, running, whatever the case, before you get into your workout. And so what I would say for these is do small lines first, right? Get comfortable trying to get that motion down. And you're going to do, you know, quite a few of these. You can do multiple rows of short lines. I'm not really too focused on you guys trying to keep the same distance between the lines. This is really just building confidence in your strokes, getting comfortable trying to freehand straight lines. As you can see, I'm not perfect here. I'm still kind of warming up. This is really just getting comfortable. And I know you guys might see me kind of turning the pencil as I'm drawing. This is to try to make sure that I'm not creating like a single blunt side of the pencil, which is something I've been doing. I do when I do this. It's just been it's kind of ingrained in me now as a habit to kind of just turn the pencil as I'm drawing these lines. And then once you get comfortable drawing these short lines, then start working up to longer lines. So you don't have to cover the whole page yet, but maybe you're going, let's completely messed up line, and you know what, we're going to work with it just going here. If your line isn't straight, that is completely fine. If you've got some bumps like that purposely, or you know, kind of curves or whatever, that is fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. You are literally, this is exercises to help, one, you get comfortable making lines, making solid lines, so we're not doing sketchy lines. We're not doing this. We're doing one solid line. And the more you do this, the more you'll get used to drawing like this. And I'm going to talk about how I move my arm. So I draw from the shoulder or from the elbow. Now the elbow I would use to do like a clean arc, and we'll get into that later. But I'm not drawing from the wrist, because even with the wrist, I'm very limited on the lines. I'm drawing from, I'm drawing from my whole shoulder. So when I move, my shoulder is moving away from my body as I'm drawing these longer lines. And then once you do feel comfortable enough, when you've done like the small and then the medium lines, then you can try these long lines, which are almost from end to end across the paper. And the one thing I do want to mention is pressure control with your drawing. This is a HB lead, so that's what the line darkness looks like with, I guess, want to say moderate pressure. Now, if I was drawing lightly, that's kind of what it would look like. I'm not even sure if you guys can really see that. And then if I'm drawing really heavy-handed, then we're getting this real dark line. You want to try to make it, you want to try to make sure that you're not pressing too hard in your paper. You don't want to later on have to fight with yourself if you're doing drawings and you're drawing so hard that you're making dents in the paper with your pencil work, because then if you have to erase something, even though you've erased it, it's still going to leave a dent in the paper. And I'll do an example real quick. So I'm going to do a hard line real quick. Got my big eraser. I'm going to erase this. One, it's not erasing all the way, but I'm not sure if you can see it. There's a small indent on this paper from where I was drawing. And as I do this, kind of just do these lines back and forth, you might be able to see that indicator of where I originally do that first line, because there is a dent in the paper. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see a little bit. So not sure if you can see that, but there is an indent right here where that original mark was, because I drew so hard that it literally dented the paper. And this is what it would look like it was from the side. So you would have the paper and there would be like a small indent from the pencil here. And then there's that, right? So this is where the lead was, and it could be from a pencil or mechanical pencil, doesn't matter, but there's that indent from the paper that would have been created. So we're going to zoom back out here. There we go. All right, so you don't want to draw too hard. You just want to put you can draw lightly, but I want to make sure if you are choosing to draw lightly, you are still drawing one continuous line. I don't want you guys to draw so lightly to where you're kind of picking up the pencil and kind of doing these broken lines across the paper. One solid line, you should be able to see it. And like I said, there's no need to worry about the distance. If you want, you can turn your paper and go back over the other lines. This is just really getting used to getting comfortable with the pencil and the paper as well. You'll find that once you get used to drawing on a particular surface, switching up that surface can sometimes cause a little bit of resistance, just because you've become so accustomed to drawing on a particular surface, whether it be smooth, rough, thicker paper, thinner paper. Just want to get that practice in. So that's lines. The next thing you would want to work with is circles. So, another thing I guess I can talk about, I'll turn this over, is with lines, you can do what they call ghosting. So ghosting is when you draw the line, you kind of envision the line and draw it with your hand without actually putting the pencil down on paper. So if I were to ghost a line, getting comfortable here, doing the motion a few times, and then I'm going to go ahead and put my pencil down. And this will kind of help you get used to the motion before you go ahead and put that line down. And then especially if you're doing longer lines, kind of ghost that line here. So the next thing we're going to talk about is circles. In circles, you can do the same thing. You can kind of ghost it with your hand before you go ahead and put it down. And circles are going to be those things that are going to challenge you every time. They can become frustrating. I'm not perfect at freehanding circles, but you practice them and you slowly get better. Now, if you really are really bad with circles, like say your circle looks something like that, what you can do is, I'm trying to find something. You can find something circular. I actually have like a circular template, but you can find something that's circle, whether it be like a bottle cap, or like the base of a cup, something that you can use. And what you're going to do is you're going to trace that circle. Just I want something like medium size here. You're going to trace that circle. So I have my template, right? There's my circle. And then what I can do is just go over and over it. You don't want to go too slow. You kind of want to have a decent pace here, and you just want to kind of go over and over again just to kind of get that motion, right? And you can do the same thing with the lines. If you feel like your lines are extremely bad, your straight lines, right? You can take a straight edge or ruler, whatever you have. You can draw that line and then just practice really going over it and over multiple times, so that way you're building that muscle memory of drawing a straight line. And if you do that enough times, it's going to become second nature for you. Circles are a little bit more difficult, and that's completely fine. So, and as you can see, even with my circles, I do turn the paper, right? So if I wanted to, so if you need to, you know, just, especially if you're just starting out with drawing, because I don't want you guys to feel like it's so frustrating that you feel like you'll never be able to do it, right? So I messed up on that circle. See this one here. There we go. So this one I messed up on. We're not gonna, but I've got 4 circles here. And then because I want to get used to that motion, I'm just going to try to go over those lines that I created, that circle that I created, whoopsies. And see, even I mess up, and that's completely fine. So that way I can get used to that motion. Oh my gosh, I completely messed up on that one. And this will also maybe help you find the perfect speed that you need to use to create the circles. Because with this one right here, I knew I was going a lot slower than what I needed to. So it's about finding that speed that works for you. And even these circles are kind of wonky. So there's a certain, for me, and you'll find your own speed, there's a certain speed where my circles look more confident and more, even though they're not a full circle, like a complete perfect circle, they're definitely prettier than the other ones if I'm going like super, whoa, I didn't mean to do that. I'm trying to go slow, but still draw a circle. So for me, going too slow, trying to create a circle is not going to work for me. But also going too fast, actually that's pretty decent. Going too fast might not work. So I need to be able to find a speed that works for me as well. And you're just going to do circles. You're not going to worry about the size of them. You can do small ones. You can do big ones. But I want you guys to draw one line for the circle, except if you're doing this method of going over and over again. I don't want you guys to do a circle like this, right? I want you guys to practice making one clean circle, because this is going to help build that confidence. And even later on down the road, if you're practicing something and you're kind of doing like that, that's fine. But for right now, I want you guys to really focus on trying to get that circle in one motion. And same thing here with the lines. We're not doing sketchy lines, so we're not doing sketchy circles. We're not doing something like that, right? We're doing one clean line. Well, let's do this. One clean circle. So this is a no. We want something like that. Even something like this. I mean, it's more oblong or whatever, but it's still it's still one continuous line. So we want that, right? So that's going to be circles. And then what you can do, even after the circles, we're going to do ovals on top of circles as well. Ovals are just long, elongated circles. And I want you guys to really try to, with the ovals, I want you guys to try to really focus on getting the sides here to look even. It doesn't have to be perfect, 100% perfect, but I want you to focus on trying to make these look even. As you can see with this one, this side is a lot thinner than this side. And ovals are going to be one of those things that are they're going to probably frustrate you more than the circles will. And you can do thicker ovals. That is a horrible oval, but you can do thicker ovals. You can do thinner ovals. And see that right there. So, let's see, kind of catching myself. So you want to, that's better, right? That's looks about even on both sides. So you really want to practice these. Like I said, you can do thick ones. You can change it up, thick ones. You can do smaller ones. Let's see. And even circles, you can do smaller ones. And I'm still drawing with my whole shoulder. I'm still drawing with my whole shoulder, not just my wrist. So you can kind of see, if I kind of slow it down for you, if I'm drawing just with my wrist, right, just with this part, you can see that it really is just all coming from the wrist and the hand. Versus when I'm drawing with my shoulder, the whole thing is moving. And I've just become accustomed to doing my circles like this, so it feels comfortable. Even when I'm drawing smaller circles, I'm still using my shoulder. And when I started doing these types of exercises, I started drawing with my shoulder. So for me, it's just natural to do that, even with smaller circles. Now, unless it's extremely small, then I'll draw with my wrist. But it usually has to be fairly small for that to happen. So, circles and ovals, that's an exercise you can do. Don't worry about, not them crossing, because even still, if I want to do circles, I can just do this. Maybe I'll try to fit an oval in here, circle in here, another oval here. So I'm really just putting them where I want, and then maybe I'll do an oval within that. So fill up pages of this. This is really going to be definitely one of your go-to points, and even with straight lines, because we'll discuss that later. But ovals and circles are going to be a challenge, but the more you do them, the more comfortable you will feel. And when you're talking about creating characters and drawing people, you've got the circle for the head. You've got a line for the center point. You've got another oval right here to indicate the side of the head. And you got a kind of like a curved line here. We'll get into that in a little bit for the side of the face, the jaw, and then maybe another a small curve to indicate the eye line and things like that. So all of this does play a part in the drawing. If you're drawing a landscape, or if you're drawing, I would say like a basic tree, you've got a circle for like maybe a bush of leaves, and then maybe there's a bigger bush of leaves here, and this is kind of like I was planning something out. And then the lines for the trunks, this is all planned out here, like, and another bush here. So you can kind of build upon with these simple forms here. So it's kind of a rough example. The next thing we're going to work with is curves. And I'm going to say this, I hate this exercise, but I like it because it does push me, but boy, do I hate it. So curves, we're going to talk about different types of curves. Excuse me. You have your regular curve, right? Your curves here. And this is one of those you're going to have to find the arc that works for you. And I'm using not only my shoulder, but also my wrist to kind of help create these curves. I'm drawing from my wrist, especially when I'm drawing bigger swoops here, but when it comes to these smaller curves, I'm kind of drawing with my shoulder and my wrist to kind of help that curve. So you're gonna have to find a way that works for you when it comes to curves. If you want to try to draw with your full shoulder instead of using your wrist, there's that. And you'll have a curve that's most likely more natural to you than others. Like for me, more pronounced curves are a little bit more of a challenge for me, even with drawing with my shoulder, because it's not something that I've really taught myself how to do, these more extreme curves. Excuse me. The natural curve that I have of the sweeping of the arm is a lot more subtle. So you have these types of curves, and you need to find which way works best for you. Some people, drawing curves, it's easier for them to go towards their body. That is a horrible curve for me. I don't draw curves naturally going to my body, right? This is going to the body. Yeah. Oh my gosh. My curves are for me, it's more natural to go away from my body. So for me, to try to go towards my body it's not gonna work well for me. So I have to go away from my body. I mean, I don't have to. I mean, I could I guess in a way I could relearn how to go towards my body, but this is a way that feels natural for me. It's easier for me. Don't fight against what feels more natural to you, as far as if it's easier for you to go away from your body or towards your body. Because at the end of the day, you can always just rotate your paper. You can always rotate. So I can always rotate my body or my paper to get that curve if I'm drawing something that's not naturally away from the body. So we have these types of curves. We're gonna do tons of pages or just tons of curves doing this. And once again, as you make these practices, really, if you are heavy-handed or light-handed, really focus on also your pressure, the pressure of the pencil that you're putting on the paper. You don't want to draw too hard. And you also, I mean, you can draw lightly, but you don't want to draw so light that you can't really make out your marks, especially if you're using HB lead, because this is me drawing fairly lightly. I'm not pressing too hard on the paper, and you can still see those marks. Now I'm going to switch it up real quick, and I'm going to use my my art pencil here. Now this is a H lead, so it is a little light. It's lighter than the HB lead, but even still, if I'm drawing lightly, you can still see those marks. I don't need to draw hard, even if it is with a lighter lead for this particular pencil. So there's these curves, right? Excuse me, guys. So the next thing we're going to work on is waves. So I'm going to use my mechanical pencil real quick, so I want you guys to be able to see these. Where's my HB pencil? Here we go. I'll keep this to the side just in case. So now we're going to be talking about waves. And this is another thing that you're going to have to get used to. I don't do this exercise too often. I need to do it more, but it's to help build that confidence. And remember, with all these exercises, we're making one line. We're not doing sketchy lines. We're not doing this. Right? We're doing one continuous line. And you can also you can start your curve going under as well. Whichever way, I would actually honestly say learn both ways. So that way you can get used to the motion. And you can do as many as you want. So, and the same thing with the lines. So you can do you can do short curves first, right? And then once you get comfortable creating those short lines, those short ones, then you can work on medium ones. And for me, the going starting underhand and then going is a little bit harder for me versus doing over like this. And you'll find ones that work more natural for you. You might be more natural going like this. And then once you get those medium lines, then you can work on creating those longer lines here. And you want to try to keep the distance the same, right? You're going to try to work on keeping that distance the same. As you can see with mine, they still need work. Like I said, unfortunately, this isn't an exercise that I practice much. I should be practicing more, but I don't. But this is going to help create that confidence. And once again, build that relationship you have with your drawing tools, drawing supplies. So that way you just become more comfortable with it. And then the more comfortable you become with your supplies, the more confident you become in drawing with those supplies. You'll feel more confident being able to pick up a pencil because you've already put so much time and energy using that material. Right? And so we're just going to do lines, curve, or waves, I'll say. That was a horrible wave. I was kind of rushing there. But then you can even do more exaggerated ones. So of course, if you want, you can practice drawing these more exaggerated curves. And I'm rushing these, but you want to take your time. You want to find that rhythm, kind of like with your circles, that is like that perfect speed for you, where it's not too slow, not too fast. And I do not usually practice my waves like this. They're usually all like this when I do practice them. So that's why I'm having a hard time with these. But, you know, just consistent practice. And then that's your, like I said, this is your waves here. So the next thing you would want to do, we've done straight lines, so let's kind of go over really quickly what we've done so far. We've done straight lines, we've done circles and ovals, we've just done the arcs and the waves. The next thing we're going to go into is boxes. Not even boxes. We are going into the basic shapes of, we already covered circles, so now we're going to touch squares and triangles. And with this lesson in particular, the reason I'm bringing these out is because I want you guys to practice kind of your start and stop, right? Because you can do a line and there's no indicator right now of where you start and stop. I will show you guys an exercise later on practicing that. But another way to practice that is just making simple shapes, your square and your triangle. With these, you're not going to just do one continuous line, right? You're not going to do that. What you're going to do is you're going to pick up the pencil. So you're going to create a line, then you're going to stop, you're going to create another line, you're going to stop, and then because you have to kind of eye this as well, you're going to make another line and figure out where it might stop, and then we're going to do one more line here. Boom. Now, I know I'm using my wrist, or actually just my hand when I'm going down, because I'm making small lines here. But if I was to make a bigger line, then I could use I'll do like a rectangle, right? I'm going to use my whole shoulder here. There's that. I'm going to turn my paper because that's what feels natural to me, to be able to draw this. And then I'm going to go here, and what you see, I'm kind of ghosting it because I'm trying to figure out where I need to stop here. And then I undershot. So I'm still going to do here and then there, right? So we know right here, I undershot it. That's fine. I'm just going to go back here and fix it. But this is going to allow you to practice not only your lines, so you get more line work practice in, but your start and stop. So maybe I want an elongated triangle here. So I'm going to go here, and then I've got to ghost this here. And this is kind of like points, right? This is actually, as I'm going to end up bringing up, this is kind of like points right here that I'm kind of connecting the dots here. And I overshot it. So, and that's fine. So even if you were to do this with squares, right? Like this is the two lines here. This is the exercise that I'm going to show you guys later. And then I know that this is here. So there's that. And then I'm going to kind of figure out where this might go here. So I know that may go here. And I'm just going to kind of ghost this line before I draw it in. Boom, I overshot it. And then from here, I'm just going to go from here to there. So boom, and I overshot that. So, and that's fine. It's not about being perfect. It's just about getting that practice in. And then, so we'll try one more. And then of course, you can do the same thing we did with the lines, right? You can do small, medium, and then your large. So if you're doing a small one, you can just go something like this. And then that's really just using your fingers, or you can do the full arm, but still undershot it. Excuse me. You got your medium, and I'll do the triangle as well. So you got your medium, go like this, and then maybe here. So overshot it there, that's fine. It's not about being perfect. We're just trying to work on those start and stops and that comfortability and drawing that one continuous line versus the sketchiness of this. This is a no. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to do one continuous line. Even if you overshot with single lines, I would prefer this over this. This is what I'm looking for. So if we were doing a larger one, right? I'll even do like a large square. So we're gonna go here. I'm gonna rotate my paper, right? Because I want to draw with the natural direction of my arm, or how I move my arm here. And here, I'm gonna go down here. And this is more of a slight rectangle than a square, but there we're going large, right? So now if we were to do this with a triangle, same thing. We're gonna do a small triangle, be a basic triangle, right? And undershot it here and here, right? And then if we go medium, same thing. We can do maybe elongated triangle, so something like this. That's actually more of a large, but that's fine. And then if we were doing large one, then I can do something like this, where I'll go like boom, like that, and then maybe it's a right-sided triangle, right? Because this would be right side here. And then so now I'm going to go from here to here because this is more natural to me. So I can go boom, and then this is where I messed up. That's okay. Boom, just correct it. So that would be your small, medium, large if you wanted to practice that. So you're just going to do, let's see, overshot it there. Just triangles and squares. Because when we talk about form and when we get into perspective, we're going to be talking about turning these squares into boxes. So I really want you to really focus on getting those angles as straight as possible and matching up. And you're going to do you can fill in the gaps here, as much as you can. You can even put a triangle within a box. Try to put as you can even overlap it here. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is nothing but getting comfortable with your supplies, your tools, and things like that. But when we get into perspective, then we're going to look into actually turning these squares or these boxes, no, well, squares, into actual boxes. And this perspective is way off, but we're going to be looking into turning these boxes, these squares, into boxes. And we'll talk about like vanishing points and stuff like that, but it's off. But the reason I want you guys to practice these straight lines and stuff is because I want you guys to feel comfortable enough to freehand your lines, even your perspective lines, even though they may not be extremely perfect. Being able to sketch, especially if you're sketching right in your sketchbook or you're sketching an image that you want to work out on paper, I want you guys to be able to feel comfortable with just laying in a line. It doesn't have to be perfect like this right now. It's got a slight curve to it, right? So it's just the natural curve of my arm. So sometimes I do have to kind of fight against that and go a little bit slower. But, you know, I can feel comfortable knowing that if this is my square, right? Then if I need to go to a vanishing point, which if you don't know what a vanishing point, we will discuss this later. But I feel comfortable being able to just kind of go ahead and shoot those lines to that line, that point right there. And even though it doesn't match up entirely, that's okay. And then I know that I can work here. And then I've got my box here. Got my cube, right? I know these are sketchy lines, don't do that. But this is what we will be leading up to. So that's why I want you guys to practice, you know, drawing those, completely overshot that, drawing those squares and those rectangles and those triangles, and just getting comfortable with those start and stop points, because that's going to help you later on with this. Now, some other exercises that you guys can do if you really want to get better at the things that we just went over is, we talked about the start and stop, right? When it comes to the squares and the triangles, and that's something you can also do with your line work. So if you want, you can create a dot and another dot, and you're going to try to start and stop on those dots here. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? So if you go over, that's completely fine. Put my sleeve up here. So I'm going to try to shoot for this. It's been a while since I've done this exercise, but I overshot a little bit, but that's completely fine. What I'm trying to focus on is making sure that I'm hitting as much of a straight line as possible with these dots. And this is where you really want to maybe start practicing ghosting before you lay that line in. And then you just keep doing it. And then as you get comfortable, you can practice the short ones, of course. This is like your short. This is like your medium. And then I'm going to challenge myself with this long one here. So it's really, ooh, see, if I would have laid that line in, I would have been completely off. So it's finding the angle that's going to work for me to kind of get as close to that line as possible. Boom. So even still, there's still a little bit of a curve here within that line, and that's completely fine. This is nothing. This is all practice. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is not stuff that you're really showing anyone. You're just getting, the mileage, and pretty much mileage, just think of it as like if you're learning to drive, the more time you spend on the road driving, the better you get, right? The more mileage you put in driving a car, the better you get, supposedly. Think of the same way as drawing. If you spend time practicing the right things and practicing correctly, and taking your time, see, overshot there, or undershot, you missed that completely, then you will improve. So with these exercises, it's not about rushing. It's not about trying to hurry up and just do a whole page. It's really taking the time to really try to focus and get comfortable with these exercises. And the more you get comfortable, the more you can push yourself, especially with these longer lines. Even if you miss the mark entirely, oops, that was off. The more you practice it, the more you'll feel comfortable doing these longer marks. Even if you miss them, you know, you'll see over time that maybe before, when you started drawing, maybe you went, so that's completely off there. So maybe before, when you were trying to do this type of exercise, maybe your lines were like that, right? Or like something like that. But then over time, you're getting a little bit closer. So I didn't ghost anything. There's a slight curve there. That's completely fine. But maybe you're getting a little bit closer to those lines, and you start to see that improvement. And maybe one day you do really good, right? Like one day you're on point. You're no pun intended, but maybe one day like you're really on point. Like your lines are really good, your circles are really good. You've been spending 30 minutes, you know, doing these exercises, and you're just like, man, I feel like unstoppable. And then the next day you get up, you go to your drawing area, and you start doing these exercises, and then you're trying to figure out like what happened, because now everything is going off, nothing's working. There could be two different things. One, you're just warming up, right? It's like kind of like if you play a sport, you know, if you're not warmed up, or if you haven't gone, your body hasn't gone through the motions yet to kind of warm up and be like, hey, this is what we're about to start doing. You're really bad at first, but once you get a few reps in, or a few shots in, if you're playing basketball or something, you're back in the groove. Or you could just be having a bad drawing day, and I think we've all experienced something like that. You know, sometimes you just have an off day, or you might have 2 off days or 3 off days, or you might have like an off week, and that is completely fine. Don't be discouraged by that. It happens to the best of us. So you can take this, right? So we've practiced the start and stop. We're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do the next exercises that you can implement is with the circles, and that is drawing contained circles. So we're gonna draw these lines, and I free-handed them, but if you want, of course, you can go ahead and bust out a trusty ruler and do it this way. I would say don't make the width. I wouldn't say don't make it any wider than an actual ruler, the ruler that you might be using. You want to try to keep it. You don't want to try to draw anything too big at the moment right now. I mean, you can practice bigger circles like freehand, but you can try, practicing bigger circles freehand, especially because that will involve using more of the shoulder. But for these circles, because we're practicing on drawing them in a contained area, right? So we want to practice. So I'm going to ghost the circle and then lay it in. And then I'll do one right next to it. And this will also help you really get control of how big you're drawing your circles. So that's off here, and then that overlap here, and that's fine. Completely off. And then maybe, because there's this little small area here, I'll draw an oval at an angle like that. So you can also do this with ovals. You can do ovals this way, or you can do them this way. All right. do some more this way, drawing them at an angle. And then if you have a smaller line, which let me just get a new piece of paper here. I'll draw on the back of this. How about that? I'll draw on the back of this. If you want, I'm gonna use a ruler. Dog hair. So if I do something like this, right, then I can really practice drawing long ovals like this and making sure they're within this area that I'm drawing them in over and over, right? And then if you want, like I said, the other way would be you can draw them this way. Now, because this feels unnatural to me, having to draw them just straight up and down like that, I'm going to rotate my paper and do them that way. Don't try to fight against what feels comfortable for you. Like, this is smaller, so we're still going to try to work on creating the even sides. Like, this is smaller than this side here, right? We're still going to try to focus on creating an oval that looks that looks about even on both sides. Now, this was almost good, but if I would have brought this out a little bit more, I could have had it match up there, and that's okay. It's nothing but practice. This is what I would call a warm up. So if I was to like getting ready to sit down and actually draw for the day, I might maybe spend 5 to 10 minutes just doing these exercises to kind of loosen up and get warmed up. Another thing that you can do with your circles or ovals, I'm just going to draw a slightly longer box here, and then I'm going to draw a wave inside here, and then we're going to practice drawing circles within these waves, and that's going to teach you to kind of vary up your circles as you draw versus just having one consistent size. So you'll have to draw big ones here. That's completely messed up, and that's fine. That's horrible. That's horrible. But this is just another way for you guys to practice. And as you can see, I'm not perfect. I'm not great with all these exercises. There's definitely exercises I could improve on. If I wanted to, I could do this again and then do smaller circles and just continue to build on that. I could even do circles in between these circles here to really focus on getting those smaller circles. And then if I wanted to, I could even do ovals. So with the ovals, it would be a little bit different. So I'm going to use the bottom part here. Or actually, I can use the bottom to the top here. So the oval's a little bit different. So I could do this where I'm doing this here, right? And I'm having to shrink these and learn how to go smaller and smaller. And then expand out again, right? And trying to still make those even, those ends even. And it is going to be a challenge. It's going to be frustrating. And then, or I could do the side, well, I can go like here where I'm kind of doing these at an angle. And you can see I'm not perfect with these. I am making some crazy misalignments here, but that's okay. This is, like I said, some of these exercises I don't practice as often as I should. Another thing that you could do, especially with your square or your circles, is create a square as much as possible, and then draw a circle within that square. And that is messed up, or it's not messed up, and it's not too bad, but right here is where I could have I could have made it a little bit better. So with this, what you're trying to do, and because this is a hard exercise, especially if you're doing it freehand. I'll show you kind of what we're shooting for. I'm just going to put the indicators here so that way I can know what I'm doing here. You are trying to create a square, and I'm going to overshoot it. You're trying to create a square or a circle within a square that touches the widest points of the circle. So these would be the widest points of the circle. And you're trying to, if you have a square, you're trying to get your circle to where the widest points of the circle are touching the middle, as close to as the middle as possible. Now with this one, this would be more of like a rectangle. So it'd be a little bit more of a oval, but it's pretty bad. But this is what we're trying to shoot for. If this was actually like proper curves, and if you need to, you can do that. If you do like a square here, and then we're gonna try to eyeball the center. Try to eyeball the center, and then we're gonna ghost it, and then we're gonna lay it in, and then try to shoot for those lines to match up. This is another exercise that you can do. Like I said, this is going to help build confidence. It's going to help you get these exercises in, being able to draw circles more comfortable, lines more comfortable, waves, curves, all of that, right? Now, another exercise you can do, and this is going to be the last one that I'll show you guys, is you can do where we kind of talked about this already with the circles, but we're going to do the same thing for the lines. So I'm going to draw a line, right? And I'm not drawing hard, I'm not drawing super hard, right? So this is the first line. And then I'm going to go over this line about 3 to 5 times. No, I would say no more than 5 times, right? And then so what I would do is that's the first line. So then we're going to do 1, 2, 3. And you're trying to keep a straight line. I did fray the edges a little bit, and that's completely fine. You can even see here, there's that thickness because I didn't go directly over the line, and that's okay. So we're going to do that line again, and then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So, of course, a little bit of thickness here, more than I would like. This is probably about the thickness that I would want to shoot for, just because I know that as I'm making lines, especially with a pencil, you're going to have that part where it's going to kind of flatten out a little bit. That's why I try to turn my paper or turn my pencil when I draw, so that way I can kind of prevent that. But this, I can tell with this right here that I knew that I was going out more on the line than what I should have. So if you want to really kind of get that practice in and get used to creating straight lines, you can get a straight edge, ruler or straight edge, draw a line, just draw a few lines, right? And then just go over them, like I said, 3 to 5 times. So that's the first line, right? We did a straight edge, and then 1, see, I'm already messing up here. 2, 3, and same with this one. 1, 2, 3. All right. And if you want to, because we're drawing with pencil, right, you want to practice your start and stop, indicate where the start is and where the stop is with a line, with a horizontal line. So that way, if you go over it, 1, 2, 3. If you go over that line, you can see that you've gone over your start line, your original start line. So even if I were to do that freehand, I'll show you what that looks like. If I were to do that freehand, right, this is my freehand line. That's my start and stop. So when I start going over it, 1, oops, I've already gone over it, 2, 3. So I know that I did go over my start line a little bit, and that's completely fine. This is the stuff that you want to do. You can also do that with curves, right? Or in your waves, you can do the same exact thing. So this is the wave. 1, 2, 3. All right. And then if I did that with curves, I can do the same thing with curves. Do this here. You can kind of just go over here. Boom. So that's my start and my stop here. And then 1, 2, 3. So you can practice doing that as well. So what the homework, I guess you can call it homework if you want, that I will give you guys would be to do this. 2 pages. You can do front and back. I would prefer front and back so that way you can get the most out of this practice, but this is just what I would recommend. 2 pages of lines, straight lines. 2 pages of circles. Oops. Geez, I am messing up here. Of circles and ovals. And I would say maybe 2 pages of each. So 2 pages of circles and then 2 pages of nothing but ovals. And then 2 pages of just curves, right? Just curves. And then 2 pages of waves. And then 1 pages, geez. 1 page of squares and or rectangles and triangles. You can do those on 1 page together if you want, or you can do them on separate pages and do 1 of each. It's up to you, however you want to do that. And then if you want the extra practice, right? You want the extra practice, then of course we have the circle practice / ovals within a contained line. I would also recommend doing the one with the wave in the middle as well, to kind of help you guys learn how to vary those shapes as well. And then of course I would recommend definitely the start and stop. And you can really get lost in doing tons of pages of those as well as these. And then the last thing that I would recommend would be the drawing over the pre-existing lines or curves or waves, doing those where you're doing the 3 to 5 times. And I would recommend putting those markers of the start and stop, so that way you kind of know what you're doing here, kind of know what you're shooting for here. Because it's real easy if I'm doing a line and I haven't marked where the stop is, that when I'm doing the next line that I'm going further down, right? So, doing that. So if you want some kind of extra work, extra kind of type work, I would recommend doing these exercises. You can even do with the start and stop points. You can even do that with curves. So you can do here, and then I can do a curve where I'm kind of going like that right here, and then doing a curve here. You can also do that, of course, with the Waves is a little bit harder, but you can also do that as well. And then of course, the last thing that I would recommend would be the square or rectangle, and then trying to mark where you feel like the center would be, and then doing a circle or an oval within those. So that's my recommendation. This is what I would recommend to kind of do. This would be definitely like the overall homework, if you want to do it, that I would give you guys for this particular lesson. 2 pages of lines, 2 pages of circles, 2 pages of ovals, 2 pages of curves, 2 pages of waves, and then 1 page of squares, rectangles, and triangles, with the pages of waves, curves, circles, ovals, and lines. You can do front and back, or you can just do one side of paper. But I will say, the more you do this stuff, the better you're going to get. Someone who does, an example would be, and of course you don't have to do all of this in one day, right? You can definitely take your time, but someone who only does 2 pages of lines, if someone else does 50 pages of lines and they're taking their time, they're really practicing, not just kind of rushing through it. Someone who does 10 pages of lines or 10 pages of circles is going to be way more comfortable and a lot better after those 10 pages versus someone who only did 2 or someone who only did 1. So like I said, the more mileage you put in of actually conscious practice, the better you will get, right? Because if you're just lazily like you're not going to get better. But if you're really taking the time to be like, okay, let me ghost this circle, let me draw it, that is a horrible circle, and then you're learning, because you're looking at this, you're seeing where you messed up, and then you're trying to correct that on the next one. Even if you have to, and I'll wrap this up here, even if you have to take something circular and trace it, and then you're literally having to trace that circle multiple times. And if you do something like this, I would say go over that circle about 3 to 5 times. And then even if that was only your 2 pages or your 3 pages or however many pages you wanted to do, if tracing a circle and then going over it 3 to 5 times was your homework, if you did that for homework, by the time you get to that 10th page, you're going to feel more comfortable drawing a freehand circle because you're getting used to that motion. So that's all that I have for you guys. Once again, just kind of going through what we've gone over. And I know these lessons are going to try to run either about an hour, if not more, just because of the information that I'll be going over in them. But we did that's not the ones we did. Where's the regular line? Here we go. We did lines. Remember, we did small, medium, large lines, and you can turn your paper and do all of that. Then we did circles and then ovals. So we did that. And of course we did our curves. Remember, finding if you feel better drawing away from your body or towards your body. Then of course we did the waves. And then we talked about the square and triangles. And of course, still even with that, doing small, medium, and large. And then of course we talked about the additional exercises, doing the start and stop. And then of course doing the ovals and the circles, and of course the squares. Then of course the tracing over the lines. So that's all that I have for you guys. I'm going to try to release a new lesson either once a week or once every 2 weeks, just depending on what I am teaching, so that way it gives you guys enough time to practice, experiment, do the recommended assignments, and then also still give you guys time to go out and just draw. Draw what you want, draw what you like, do fan art, draw from life, draw whatever in your mind, even if it doesn't come out entirely correctly. Don't forget to still enjoy the process. That's going to be the most important thing. If you guys would like me to create a Discord or something where you guys can take pictures of your work, of the assignments, and put that in there so that way you guys can grow or show your work to other people that are learning to draw, or get feedback or encouragement, or just keep track of your progress with everything, let me know. I can do that. So that way you have a place to kind of also see your progression from when you first started to, later on down the road. But I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Like I said, this is definitely, if you're just starting out, or even if you have a little bit of experience, these exercises are really good to get more comfortable with your medium. This is something I've also done when I was learning how to work with different pencils or different pens, and different supplies, like I'm trying to think, specifically more with pens, not necessarily markers or anything like that. Even with, I was learning how to, when I was drawing with this pencil, because it's a little bit heavier, doing these exercises really allowed me to get a feel for the weight of the pencil and how, if I needed to make any adjustments when it comes to drawing, how I would do that, and build up my confidence in drawing with this particular pencil. Even with my lead holder, because I was not comfortable drawing with that when I first got it, these exercises definitely help. So I thank you guys for taking the time to watch another video. And the next lesson, like I said, it won't probably come out for about a week. We're going to start talking about actual getting on the subject of perspective. And I'm not going to bog you guys down with a lot of unnecessary information. We're going to get really into the basics of perspective, so that way you guys have a clear grasp of what perspective is and how to apply it. And then at the end of that lesson, because it'll probably be a two-parter, if not a little bit more, we'll talk about like applying perspective and getting into some other things when it comes to perspective. So once again, hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions or comments, or if something was unclear, let me know, and then I can make another video going over answering any questions that you have, or clearing up anything that was unclear for you, if I feel that a video would be more helpful than just replying back to the comment. So thank you guys again, and take care. Bye.